When Marcus smiled, the rest of the room leaned in. He had that kind of smile, easy, practiced, the kind that warmed up a crowd before it sharpened a blade. I learned to hate it the way you learn to hate a song after it's been played 1,000 times. The melody stays in your head, and every time it starts again, you flinch. We met in a cramped conference room 2 years earlier. 2 founders with borrowed optimism and too many late nights. He pitched big. I built things that worked. People liked his cadence, his confident jokes. The way he told our investors we were the future. People trusted him. I trusted him. I handed him pitch decks and metrics and the keys to the company's bank account because that's what partners do until the day he turned those keys into a knife. One morning I came in to find the office buzzing like a hive that had been prodded. Phones that were supposed to ring didn't. My access cards blinked red. Marcus met me in the lobby with that smile and a folder heavier than his handshake. We had to make a call, he said. Things weren't moving fast enough. You know how it is. I remember the paper between his fingers. Board minutes that made me out as the obstinate co-founder. Bank authorizations signed in my name that I had never signed. An emergency vote that somehow removed my role and dissolved my control. He had lines of forged signatures, forged timestamps. He had emails I never wrote forwarded to investors. He had taken my voice, filtered it with artful edits, and used it to fire me from the thing I'd built. Legal will sort it, he offered, rehearsed. We can do this clean. He left me with his smile and a cardboard box with my belongings. I walked out into a drizzle that felt appropriately cinematic. People asked what happened. I said I was regrouping. I filed a divorce from an idea. But you can't divorce a life without getting cut. At first I tried the normal things. Calls, counsel, angry emails that read better as drafts than as strategies. I tried to burn with loudness, public accusations, social media posts, a blog post that tasted like metal. Marcus became the narrative's victim. I became the cautionary footnote. He'd already started weaving a story where I was volatile and litigious, the kind of founder investors quietly avoid. Momentum is a currency. He had it, and he spent it. Anger is a great furnace. Revenge, when it cools and hardens, becomes a tool. I stopped trying to shout him down and started mapping him. Where he kept his receipts, who he trusted to notarize his lies, which vendors had invoices that matched up and which ones were smoke. I learned that rage without plan is just noise. Rage with a spreadsheet is lethal. I put on a coat of friendliness and went back into relationships I'd let fray. I called former employees, whispered apologies and invitations. I showed up at the places where Marcus's ego liked to be flattered. The same networking breakfasts, the same investor brunches, and I listened more than I spoke. People like to help a comeback story. They like to be part of the hero's arc. I didn't need heroes. I needed witnesses. Slowly, I built an archive. Not the romantic kind you see in movies, the montage of piano keys and montage cuts, but a careful, surgical collection. Timestamps pulled from server logs. Archived versions of contracts, bank statements, invoices with metadata no human could fake. I hired a forensic accountant. Not because I wanted the headline, exhaustive audit reveals fraud, but because ledgers swallow lies. Paperwork doesn't care about charisma. There were nights when I wanted to burn everything to the ground. The urge to do something dramatic hummed like an unfinished chord. But dramatic is messy. Messy leaves a trail you don't control. I wanted clean. I wanted undeniable. When I had the dossier, emails that proved, Marcus instructed a vendor to misbill the company, matching deposits into accounts controlled by a small LLC registered under his assistant's maiden name. When I had more than motive and rumor, I did 2 things. I told a few people I trusted exactly what I had, and I waited for the right place to make it public. The right place, as it turned out, was the quarterly investor meeting. Marcus loved stages. He loved spotlight and applause. He had scheduled a 6-minute talk to reassure investors that his pivot was secure and the future bright. He walked on stage expecting the same minor ovation he always got. He did not expect me. I sat in the 3rd row, my laptop a plain, calm rectangle on my knee. I watched his mouth move, watched the practiced cadence build. When he wrapped and opened the room for questions, I asked for the microphone with all the politeness of a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. Todd, someone chuckled from the back. Marcus smiled. Marcus, I corrected. I spoke slowly, the way you do when you want each syllable to be a stone. I have a question about your accounting for the vendor chain from May last year through February this year, I said. I opened the slide deck I'd prepared. Numbers and dates bloomed on the screen, untampered, raw, with metadata exposed. I played a short clip, a voice memo of Marcus, instructing his assistant to reroute payments and make it look routine. I showed matching bank transfers. I showed vendor phone, numbers and addresses that led back to PO, boxes and shell companies. The room bent forward like a field of wheat. Marcus's smile thinned, then trembled. The investor next to him turned pale. He started to sputter to call me out for theatrics. I let the facts do the talking. Forensic logs, attorney-verified documents, notarized statements from a vendor who'd been paid, but never contracted. The arc was clean: fraud, intentional misdirection, personal enrichment. In the days after, the world narrowed to emails you cannot take back. Regulators opened levers that had been closed when charm was confused for competence. Auditors came with boxes and questions. The investors, who had been fond of Marcus's speeches, read the ledger without seeing the swagger. Contracts were frozen. Marcus called me frantically on the phone, begging, pleading, offering to pay back. I didn't pick up. He called lawyers, sure, and he tried to smear me the way he'd smothered me, reframe the narrative. I was bitter. I wanted revenge. I was rewriting history. That story lasted as long as the evidence didn't contradict it. Evidence is a stubborn thing. It doesn't bend to narratives. It breaks them. There was a hearing. There were headlines in the local press first. Startup scandal rocks community. Then larger outlets picked it up. The criminal charges were serious: wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. The civil suits asked for restitution that swallowed the gains he'd made. I didn't feel triumphant in the triumphant way you see in movies. No fist pumping, no victorious soundtrack. There was a quietness, the kind that comes after a long siege. People came up to me in the weeks after and said the same thing. I had no idea. That was the saddest part. Not the betrayal, but the blindness. Marcus pleaded guilty in the end. He lost everything the way people who build castles on quicksand do. Fast, with violent implosion. He sold the house, the cars, signed papers, took a picture with the back of a mugshot. His smile, once currency, became a liability. What I got was simple. The company stabilized, new leadership came in, and the product we'd built began to find the market again, under honest hands. I walked the floors one morning and found a note taped to an old whiteboard, 2 words in a sloppy marker. Keep building. Small, human, ordinary. It was mine. Revenge, I learned, isn't a scene in a movie. It's a discipline.
It's patience folded into planning, anger sculpted into steps.
It's not about making someone suffer. It's about restoring balance so the thing they broke can be healed. Marcus thought charm and charisma could armor him forever. He fattened his hubris on other people's trust. He bet his life on being liked. I won because I converted outrage into evidence. Because I used the only language that could counter his smile, proof. And when the curtain fell and the applause dulled, there was no gloating, just a clean table, a list of reconciled accounts, and a new day that smelled faintly like coffee and possibility.